Welcome to Stoicism for Sleep, the power of letting go of control. Hey there! Before we begin tonight's quiet journey, take a moment to get comfortable. Dim the lights. Let the background noise soften. Maybe you're lying in bed. Maybe you're sitting on the floor by a window. Wherever you are, you're here. And that's enough. The story you're about to hear is rooted in a philosophy that's over 2,000 years old. Stoicism was born in the open-air markets of Athens, nurtured in the journals of Roman emperors, and passed down not with urgency but with quiet strength. It's a way of being that doesn't demand control, but teaches you how to meet what comes with clarity, courage, and calm. And tonight, we're not here to solve every problem. We're not here to fix your thoughts or silence your mind. We're here to notice, to breathe, to let go of what never belonged to us in the first place. So if this kind of space, slow, reflective, gentle, speaks to something in you, I invite you to support this channel. Not for the algorithm, not for the numbers, but so that spaces like this can continue to exist. If you'd like, press that subscribe button, or don't. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Now close your eyes if that feels right. Or simply soften your gaze. Let's begin. Section 1, when you can't let go of expectations. You've been told to let go before. Just relax. Don't think about it too much. Stop expecting so much. But you've also seen what happens when people stop caring. Things fall apart, opportunities slip by, relationships crack open without warning. So you tighten your grip. You expect more of yourself, of others, of life. And slowly, without meaning to, you begin caring more than your fair share. Maybe you don't call it expectation. Maybe you call it planning, or ambition, or love. But under the surface, it's the same thing, a subtle demand that things turn out the way you hope they will. You think, if I prepare enough, if I try hard enough, if I show up perfectly, maybe this time the outcome will match the effort. But life doesn't always reward effort in straight lines. Let me offer an example. A man I once worked with, let's call him Daniel, had been applying for jobs after being laid off. Dozens of applications, countless interviews, polite rejections, no replies. Each day he'd wake up early, polish his resume again, rehearse questions, hope. And each night he'd lie awake wondering, what's wrong with me? Why isn't it working? It wasn't just the job he needed, it was the validation. The confirmation that his work, his experience, his worth still meant something. Every rejection felt personal, even cruel. He wasn't just tired of looking for work. He was tired of being disappointed. One day during our session, he said something quietly, I feel like I'm trying to force something that won't move, like I'm banging on a door that's locked from the inside. That's when we began talking about expectation, not as motivation, but as pressure, as resistance, as a silent contract with the universe that says, I'll try this, but only if it gives me what I want in return. And as long as you cling to that contract often without knowing it, you remain trapped. You see, one of the most powerful shifts you can make in this life is learning how to let go of expectations. Not in a cynical way, not by giving up on effort or dreams, but by redirecting your attention away from outcome and toward presence. In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus offers this, don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Seek for things to happen as they do, and you will find peace. It's not a call to become passive. It's an invitation to stop arguing with reality. You can prepare for an interview, but you can't control who else applies. You can care deeply in a relationship, but you can't dictate how the other person feels. You can give your best and still be misunderstood. You can plant a seed, but you cannot force it to grow. This isn't failure. This is the nature of things. And the more you cling to expectation, this must happen. They must respond this way. I must get this result. The more tension you create inside your own body. You confuse effort with entitlement. You turn life into a negotiation where peace is always postponed until your conditions are met. That's why so often you feel tired, not just physically, but spiritually. You're not just living. You're measuring, calculating, bracing. But what if tonight, for just a few breaths, you put the expectation down? Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to focus on what's truly yours, to hold your process, your presence, your next small step. Imagine Daniel again. He didn't stop applying for jobs, but something shifted in him once he let go of needing each attempt to work. He stopped seeing silence as rejection. He started treating each email, each call, each rejection, not as a verdict, but as part of a process. A stone in the river, a lesson in movement, and slowly his body softened. He smiled again. And eventually, yes, a job came. But by the time it did, he had already found something far more valuable peace that didn't depend on the outcome. So I wonder, as you lay here tonight, where are you holding on too tightly? Is it in a conversation you want to go differently? A decision you regret? A version of your life that hasn't arrived yet? Can you feel how heavy that becomes hour after hour, day after day? And can you consider, just for this moment, letting it be exactly as it is? You may not sleep the moment you let go. That's okay. But you might notice that your breath deepens, that your chest opens, that a part of you, the part that's been holding the world upright, finally gets to rest. This is what Stoicism offers. Not a fix, not a guarantee, but a path toward peace through presence. A path that asks, what if things don't need to go your way for you to be okay? What if the real strength isn't in controlling the outcome, but in how you show up, no matter the result? That's where your power has always been. And it's still with you now in the quiet, in the dark, in this exact breath you're taking. Section 2. The first breath of surrender. Your mind is the most powerful tool you possess. But tonight, it doesn't feel that way, does it? Tonight it feels like your thoughts are running the show. Like a restless conductor directing a symphony of what-ifs and unfinished business. You lie in bed and try to wind down, but your mind doesn't know how to be quiet on command. It wants to solve, to rehearse, to protect. It wants to go over that one email again, that strange comment from earlier, that missed opportunity last week, and it does so with unrelenting energy. It's not that you don't want to rest, it's that your mind doesn't know how to stop. And in a way, it's not your fault. Each day, your nervous system is bombarded by alerts, messages, notifications, expectations. The world asks you to multitask, optimize, achieve, stay ahead. It celebrates productivity, but it rarely teaches you how to pause, how to just be. So, your thoughts have grown wild. Not because you are broken, but because no one taught you how to hold space for silence. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher emperor who led during plague and war, once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Not your success, not your possessions, not the outcome of your plans. Your thoughts." Because Marcus knew, as every wise mind does, that the world outside of you will always be uncertain. But the way you relate to your thoughts, that's where your power lives. So tonight we begin not by trying to change the world, but by changing your relationship to your own mind. Let me tell you about someone I once worked with. His name was Jonah. A brilliant young engineer, sharp, logical, highly respected at his company. But privately, Jonah struggled with anxiety. Not the loud, panicked kind, the quiet, intelligent kind. The kind that wears a suit, the kind that looks like competence on the outside and chaos on the inside. He would come home from work completely exhausted, not from physical labor, but from overthinking. He replayed meetings. He pre-wrote responses to emails he hadn't received yet. His mind was never still. In our first few sessions, I asked him a question: when do you feel most at peace? He paused for a long time. Then he said, when I'm hiking, alone, somewhere high up with no cell service. I asked what changed in him during those hikes. He smiled almost shyly and said, my thoughts slow down. They don't disappear, but they stop biting me. That phrase stuck with me, they stop biting me. Because that's what overthinking often feels like, as if your own thoughts have turned against you. But the truth is, your thoughts are not enemies. They're not even problems to be solved. They're just signals. Sometimes helpful, sometimes distorted, but never the whole truth. And like any tool, the mind must be trained, not silenced, not suppressed, but gently guided. That's why in moments like this we return to the breath. Not because it's magical, not because it will erase all thought, but because it anchors you to the only place your mind can actually rest: the present. Right now, without moving, notice your breath. You don't need to change it, you don't need to deepen it, just notice: is it short or long? Is it in your chest or down in your belly? That noticing, that act of awareness, is the beginning of surrender. Because when you become the observer of thought rather than its victim, something shifts. You create space. A pause. A moment between impulse and reaction. Marcus Aurelius would often wake early and write reflections to himself, meditations that no one else was ever meant to read. And again he reminded himself, your thoughts shape your life. Choose them carefully. Don't believe every story the mind tells. Return to what is here right now. So tonight, as your mind begins its habitual loops, notice them, but don't climb inside them. A thought arises. What if I fail tomorrow? Pause. Notice that's just a sentence in your mind. Not a prophecy, not a fact, just a sentence. Let it pass like clouds across the sky. Another thought arises. I should have handled that better today. Okay, there it is, a moment of regret. You don't have to argue with it, but you also don't have to dwell. Just breathe, be with it, let it soften. Because when you meet your thoughts with resistance, they grow louder. But when you meet them with presence, they begin to dissolve. This is the quiet discipline of Stoicism, not detachment, but discernment. And this discipline begins with one simple practice: returning to now. Not tomorrow's interview, not yesterday's mistake. Now. Your breath, your body, this bed, this moment. You don't need to empty your mind. You don't need to be perfectly still. You just need to notice. Every time you notice, you step out of the storm and into stillness. Every time you breathe with awareness, you remind your nervous system we are safe. And slowly your thoughts lose their edge. They stop biting. They start to float. So as you lie here, you can remind yourself, the happiness of my life depends on the quality of my thoughts. And then, without pressure, without expectation, you return to the breath, in and out. That's enough for now. Section 3, nothing great is created suddenly. You want it to happen now. Maybe it's the relationship you're waiting for, the one where you're finally seen, chosen, met fully. Maybe it's your work, the sense that what you're doing matters, that you're growing, that you're no longer lost in the noise of just getting by. Or maybe it's something even deeper, the version of yourself you've been trying so hard to become. More present, more calm, more at peace. And on nights like this, when the world grows still and your thoughts grow loud, you feel the ache of how far away it still seems. You want to be there already. You want to know it's all coming together, that it's working, that your efforts matter, that you're not wasting your time. You want results. Clarity, closure. Now, it's a very human urge. But here's something the ancient Stoic Epictetus once wrote, not to discourage you, but to free you. No great thing is created suddenly. Nothing. Not love, not character, not mastery, not peace. Even a tree, one that eventually grows strong enough to bear fruit to provide shade to survive storms, begins in darkness, hidden, underground. It doesn't rush toward the sun. It doesn't panic when the first leaf is slow to unfurl. It trusts in process. But you, like most of us, have grown up in a culture that worships speed. We are taught that faster is better, that productivity equals value, and that if something isn't happening yet, then it must not be working. And so we rush. We rush healing. We rush connection. We rush decisions. We want our inner growth to be like a package with a tracking number, measurable, predictable, guaranteed. But the most meaningful transformations in life are never sudden. They're subtle, quiet, often invisible until they're not. I once worked with a woman named Priya. She had recently left a toxic job, and for the first time in a decade, she had space to ask herself, what do I actually want? She thought the answer would come quickly. She gave herself 2 weeks to figure it out. But 2 weeks turned into 2 months. No big revelation, no magical clarity, just a quiet discomfort. I feel like I'm failing at resting, she said once, half joking, half serious. She had been in motion for so long, always chasing the next thing. That stillness felt wrong, like something was broken, like she had to fix it right away. But what was actually happening was this: she was growing roots, not Instagram-worthy progress, not flashy success, but real inner anchoring. Slowly, she began to change her questions. From what do I want next to what is asking to grow inside me, even if I don't understand it yet? That shift from force to patience was where everything began. And so I ask you gently, what in your life are you trying to rush right now? Where are you pulling at the petals, trying to make the flower bloom? Where are you mistaking slowness for failure? The truth is, you can't force a tree to blossom before it's ready. And you can't force yourself or your path to deliver results on your timeline. But you can tend to the soil. You can create conditions where growth becomes possible. You can show up each day with care, with presence, with integrity and trust that something is becoming even when you can't see it yet. This is the Stoic practice to commit to the process, not the outcome. To focus not on when the results will arrive, but on how you are showing up right now. In your thoughts, in your actions, in your breath, even in how you lie here now, letting go of the need to figure it all out tonight. Because what if this exact moment is part of the blooming? What if the stillness you're fighting is the very environment your soul needs to grow? Look at nature. Look at the moon, always in transition, never rushed. Look at the tides, faithful, ancient, unhurried. Everything real takes time. And yes, you'll still have moments of frustration. You'll still want signs, milestones, proof. But if you stay with the process, if you keep tending the inner soil, you'll begin to notice the small signs. The way you speak to yourself becomes softer. The way you respond to stress becomes wiser. The way you breathe becomes deeper. That's what growth looks like, not explosive, but unfolding. So as you lie here tonight, let go of the pressure to arrive. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're in process. You're growing even now in the dark. Trust the pace of your own becoming. Let the breath remind you slow, steady enough. And let Epictetus whisper softly in the background, no great thing is created suddenly, including you. Section 4. Clarity over fear. There's a certain kind of doing that wears you down. It's not the doing that comes from energy or excitement. It's the doing that comes from fear. The kind of movement that looks productive on the outside, but underneath is powered by panic. You know this version of yourself, the one that sends the email, not because it feels right, but because you're afraid of being forgotten. The one that says yes to things you don't want because you're afraid to disappoint. The one that pushes and perfects and overthinks because somewhere deep inside you're afraid that if you stop even for a moment, it will all fall apart. That kind of action doesn't calm your nervous system. It feeds it, and the more you do from fear, the more fear you create. You may even tell yourself, I'm just being responsible, or I'm trying to stay ahead. But if you pause long enough, you'll notice your body is tight, your breath is shallow, and your sleep is light, always ready to wake at the next ping or worry. But there is another way to act. It's slower, quieter, but infinitely more powerful. It's the way of clarity. Clarity doesn't rush. Clarity doesn't chase approval. Clarity doesn't come from anxiety. Clarity comes from alignment, from knowing who you are and acting like it. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher born into slavery who rose to become a teacher of emperors, once wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." He wasn't suggesting you write a 5-year plan. He was pointing to something deeper, that when you stop acting out of fear and start acting from intention, everything begins to shift. Let me tell you about someone I worked with. His name was Aaron. Aaron had spent most of his life trying to meet expectations. His parents expected success. His company expected loyalty. His friends expected him to always be okay. And for a while, he managed it all. He had the job, the status, the steady relationship. But under it all, he was constantly afraid of letting someone down, of making the wrong move, of choosing for himself. So he didn't choose. He performed. Until one day, his body said no. It came in the form of chest pain. Heart racing at 2 a.m., panic he couldn't talk himself out of. Doctors found nothing physically wrong. But emotionally, spiritually, he was living from fear, and his body was tired of pretending otherwise. In our work together, I didn't give him a list of things to fix. I gave him one question. Who would you be if fear wasn't running the show? It startled him. He realized that he had never actually asked himself what he wanted. Only what would avoid conflict, avoid rejection, avoid risk. For the first time, he began listening not to fear, but to clarity. He didn't quit his job overnight. He didn't end his relationship in a dramatic burst. But he started doing small things differently. He said no when he meant no. He took a quiet hour each day to walk without his phone, letting his mind breathe. He stopped apologizing for having needs. And slowly, his decisions began to align with something deeper than obligation. They aligned with himself. Fear will always whisper, if you don't do this, something bad will happen. But clarity will ask, if you do this, does it bring you closer to who you want to become? One contracts, the other expands, and every day in small ways you are choosing between the two. So tonight, as you lie here, perhaps feeling the familiar buzz of unfinished to-dos and imagined consequences, ask yourself, where am I acting from fear? Where am I performing safety instead of choosing integrity? What would change if I slowed down enough to ask not, what should I do, but who am I becoming? You don't need all the answers right now. But even asking the question changes things. Because clarity isn't a thunderclap. It's a quiet return to what you already know beneath the noise. It's in your breath. It's in that tiny tug of your intuition. It's in the peace you feel when you do something that may not please everyone but sits right in your chest. And yes, it takes courage. It takes courage to stop running on fear and begin trusting yourself. But this is how transformation begins. One clear choice at a time. So if tonight all you do is pause, if all you do is whisper to yourself, I want to act from clarity, not fear, then that's enough. You've already begun. Because the truth is, you don't need to be fearless to be free. You just need to be honest about what's driving you and who you no longer want to be. Let that honesty guide you. Let it soften you. Let it call you back to yourself. And remember, in the words of Epictetus, first say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do, not out of fear, but from clarity, not from pressure, but from truth, not all at once, but starting now. Section 5, the freedom of letting go. You want things to go right. You want people to understand you. You want tomorrow to unfold according to plan. You want the weather to cooperate, the traffic to ease up, the timing to be perfect. It's not wrong to want those things. It's human. But deep down, there's a tension, a quiet frustration that comes from living in a world where so little is actually within your control. Maybe you felt it today. Someone misread your message. Someone didn't show up the way you needed. Plans shifted. Emotions flared. Expectations went unmet. And now you're lying here in the quiet of night, and a part of your mind is still trying to fix what can't be fixed. Still trying to rearrange the day in retrospect. Still wondering if you should have said something different or said nothing at all. But what if I told you you were never meant to carry all of it? What if I told you the weight you're feeling isn't from failure, but from grasping for things that were never yours to hold? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Not success, not admiration, not certainty, but freedom." And freedom, as he defined it, begins when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Let that sink in. Because most of your stress, most of your exhaustion doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from trying to manage things that do not belong to you. Other people's choices, other people's opinions, the weather, the news, the market, the future. You can influence, you can prepare, but you cannot control. And when you try, you don't gain security, you lose peace. Let me tell you about someone I worked with. Her name was Claire. She was a mother of two, a team leader at her company, and the kind of person who was always on. She tried to anticipate everyone's needs. She worried constantly about her children's future, her team's performance, her parents' health. She felt responsible for everything. One day she said to me, "If I don't hold it together, everything will fall apart." And I asked gently, "Are you sure it's yours to hold?" She was silent for a long time. That question, as simple as it was, cracked something open. Because for years she'd been trying to manage not just her own responsibilities, but everyone else's reactions and outcomes too. And she was exhausted. We began working on a daily practice together, sorting her stress into 2 buckets. Bucket 1. What's within my control? Bucket 2. What isn't? It sounds simple, but it changed everything. Her thoughts about her children's future, bucket 2. Her intention to show up and support them today, bucket 1. Her colleagues' bad mood in meetings, bucket 2. Her own professionalism and clarity, bucket 1. The news cycle, bucket 2. Her boundaries around screen time, bucket 1. And the more she practiced this sorting, the lighter she felt. She didn't stop caring. She didn't become passive. She simply stopped carrying what wasn't hers. And she began slowly to taste what Epictetus meant by freedom. So, let me ask you, as you lie here tonight, what have you been trying to control today that doesn't belong to you? Whose mood are you trying to manage? Whose opinion are you trying to change? What part of the future are you trying to force into certainty? Can you feel how heavy it is, and can you imagine just for tonight putting that weight down? It won't make you irresponsible. It won't make you careless. It will make you clear. Because when you stop grasping for control, you gain something far greater: inner authority. You return to the only space where your choices matter, your own mind, your own actions, your own reactions. You return to yourself, and from there, everything shifts. You begin to notice how much energy you were spending on outcomes you couldn't guarantee. You begin to reclaim that energy and use it to care for your body, to steady your breath, to show up with presence. You begin to trust that the world can turn without your constant supervision. And perhaps, most beautifully, you begin to feel free, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer bound by things you cannot change. So as you settle into bed, bring this question close. What is mine to hold and what is not? If it's your thought, hold it with care. If it's your intention, strengthen it with integrity. If it's your next action, choose it with clarity. But if it's someone else's reaction, or a tomorrow that hasn't come yet, or a memory that cannot be changed, let it go. Gently, kindly, over and over. This is how freedom begins. Not in a grand escape, not in a perfect plan, but in a quiet decision. Tonight I will only carry what is truly mine. And if you forget, that's okay. Just come back to this breath. Come back to yourself. Come back to Epictetus. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And let that be enough. Section 6. The wealth of wanting less. You may not realize it, but you've been taught to feel poor. Not in the financial sense, though. That too can be real and painful. But in a deeper, quieter way. A sense of not enoughness that hums beneath your every decision. Not smart enough. Not productive enough. Not attractive enough. Not secure enough. Not ahead of where you thought you'd be by now. It's like a background noise that never turns off. Even on good days, even after small wins, the mind whispers more. It should be more. And this scarcity mindset, this chronic hunger for more, doesn't just stress you out. It steals your sleep. Because how can you rest when there's still so much to chase? So much left undone, unearned, unproven. You tell yourself, I'll feel better once I hit that goal. I'll relax when I save enough, or finish that project, or find the right person. But the finish line always moves. You live in a culture that thrives on your dissatisfaction, that profits from your hunger, that trains you to measure worth by accumulation. But here's what the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said over 2,000 years ago. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Let that settle. Real wealth, the kind that helps you breathe easier, sleep deeper, live freer, isn't found in having everything. It's found in realizing you already have enough. Let me tell you about someone I once worked with. Her name was Rachel. She was a marketing executive, successful by every metric, income, influence, lifestyle. But she couldn't sleep. Her days were spent performing excellence, and her nights were spent reliving them, wondering if she'd missed something, fallen behind, said the wrong thing. She was always chasing something, a better role, a better version of herself, a better future. And one day, during a particularly exhausted session, she said, I don't know what I'm running toward anymore. I just know I can't stop. That's when we began exploring a different question, not how can I get more, but what if I already have enough? At first she resisted. felt dangerous, lazy, even irresponsible, but we didn't stop at theory. We brought the question into her daily life. Before buying something online, pause. Do I truly need this, or am I avoiding something inside? Before accepting a new commitment, pause. Does this align with what I value, or am I just afraid of missing out? Before judging her progress, pause. What if stillness is not stagnation, but integration? She started taking walks without headphones, started writing down 3 things each day that were already enough. And slowly, her nervous system shifted. She didn't become a monk, she didn't quit her job or move to the mountains. But she stopped chasing approval in every corner of her life. And she started sleeping again, not because life was perfect, but because her mind no longer treated every moment as an emergency. She began to feel full. That's what Epictetus meant. When you want less, you suffer less. Because the gap between what is and what you think should be begins to close. So I ask you now gently, honestly, what are you still telling yourself you need in order to feel okay? More money, more validation. A perfect version of your life. Can you feel how much pressure that creates? And what if just for tonight, you gave yourself permission to feel like enough? Right here, without fixing, without achieving, without earning it. You are not behind, you are not missing something. You are not the only one still figuring it out. You are here, you are breathing, you are held not by the things you own, but by the awareness that needing less frees more space for peace. This isn't about giving up ambition. It's about reclaiming ownership of your inner world. Because when you stop measuring life by accumulation, you start experiencing it directly in the softness of your blanket, the rhythm of your breath, the quiet miracle of a moment without striving. And in that space, something shifts. Gratitude becomes natural. Comparison loses its grip. And sleep, once so distant, becomes a friend again. So tonight, instead of asking, what am I missing, ask, what am I already holding that I've overlooked? And when you breathe in, feel the fullness of this moment. When you breathe out, let go of the story that says you are not yet enough. Because you are. In this breath, in this bed, in this now. And if you forget, if the mind pulls you back into longing, into wanting, into chasing, that's okay. Just return. Return to the wisdom of Epictetus. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Let your wealth begin there. Section 7, Patience After Effort. You've done what you could today. Maybe it wasn't perfect. Maybe it didn't check every box. Maybe it didn't get noticed or applauded or rewarded. But you showed up, you tried. You moved something forward even if no one else saw it. And yet, as you lie here, the mind whispers, it's not enough. It reminds you of everything still unfinished. The unanswered emails, the conversation that didn't go the way you planned, the job application still pending, the message you're still waiting on, the life milestone you think you're behind on. And beneath all that noise is one feeling: restlessness. You want to know that your effort will pay off, that what you've planted will grow, that something, anything is happening beneath the surface. But results rarely come on command, and outcomes rarely arrive according to your schedule. This is where many people get stuck in the space between effort and reward. They confuse uncertainty with failure. They mistake waiting for wasting. But the Stoics taught something different. Seneca, Roman statesman, philosopher, and advisor to emperors, once wrote, "Effort and patience accomplish more than force and anxiety." It's a sentence worth sitting with. Because you've been taught to hustle, to grind, to squeeze every ounce of progress from every waking moment. You've been told that rest is laziness, that patience is passivity, that good things come only to those who chase without stopping. But the truth is, some things bloom only when left alone. Let me tell you about a man named Julian. He was a graphic designer, talented and thoughtful, but often caught in cycles of burnout. He'd pour himself into projects, pushing past his limits, believing that the more he suffered for the work, the more likely it would succeed. But after every launch, every presentation, he was left with an aching void. He couldn't rest. He didn't trust the process. He was always chasing certainty, results, feedback, validation, as if rest had to be earned by worry. When we began working together, he told me, "I feel like I'm doing my part, but I can't stop thinking about whether it's enough. I keep refreshing my inbox like it's oxygen." I asked him something simple. What if doing your part and then letting go is the bravest thing you can do? At first he resisted. Letting go felt like giving up. Waiting felt unbearable. But over time he began to experiment with something radical, detaching from outcome. Not detaching from care, detaching from control. He learned to say, "I've done what I can. The rest will come when it comes." And slowly, something softened. His work became steadier. His sleep deepened. His anxiety loosened its grip. And his results? They didn't vanish. They got better. Because he stopped forcing and started flowing. That's what Seneca meant. Effort is noble, but effort without patience becomes pressure. And pressure without trust becomes panic. So I ask you now in the quiet of this night, have you done your part? Have you studied, showed up, spoken with integrity, sent what needed sending, created what was yours to create? If so, can you allow yourself to rest? Can you let the seeds you planted be? Can you trust that growth often happens in silence beneath the soil, beneath awareness, beneath timelines you can't always see? Because there's a rhythm to life that doesn't respond to force. You can't force someone to love you. You can't force a flower to bloom faster. You can't force clarity to come before it's ready. But you can show up with presence. You can return to your values. You can act from courage, not desperation. You can offer your effort and then loosen your grip. That is real discipline and real freedom. The Stoics didn't just preach this in theory, they practiced it in war, in exile, and illness. They knew what it meant to try hard and wait long. So tonight, let yourself be still. Let yourself feel the quiet between effort and result. Let your breath remind you there's no urgency right now. The email can wait. The reply can wait. Even the result, the thing you're still hoping for, can arrive in its own time. Because what matters most isn't how fast it comes. What matters is how you wait, with tension or with trust, with anxiety or with steadiness, with clenched fists or with open hands. You're allowed to relax even when things are unresolved. You are allowed to feel peace even before the outcome is clear. And you are allowed to say, "I've done my part. Now I wait with patience, not panic." That is strength. That is wisdom. That is Stoicism in practice. So breathe, soften, let go. And remember what Seneca said, effort and patience accomplish more than force and anxiety. Trust that the world moves even when you stop pushing. Section 8, when the body is ready but the mind won't sleep. You've brushed your teeth, dimmed the lights, tucked yourself into bed. Your body is quiet now, heavy, still. But your mind, it's still moving like a ceiling fan that keeps spinning long after the switch has been turned off. This is the strange modern condition. The body knows how to sleep, but the mind refuses. It's not that you don't want to rest. It's that somewhere deep inside, there's a part of you that doesn't believe it's safe to stop thinking. That part has learned often through years of stress that staying alert means staying ahead. That if you can just figure out the problem before it happens, or play back the day one more time, or plan tomorrow with a little more precision, then maybe you won't mess it all up. Then maybe you'll finally feel in control. But here's the quiet truth you already know. You're not really planning anymore. You're not solving anything. You're just stuck in a loop of over-responsibility, worry, and mental fatigue. And the saddest part? We've normalized this. We've come to believe that sleep is something you earn only after exhaustion. That rest is a luxury, not a birthright. That being tired all the time means you're doing life right. But that's not rest, that's collapse. Let me tell you about a client I once worked with. Her name was Erica. Erica was a school administrator, mother of two, deeply caring, always on top of things. From the outside, she looked like someone who had it together. But every night she lay in bed for hours, body still, mind racing. She wasn't thinking about anything dramatic, just everything. Tomorrow's schedule, her daughter's science project, that awkward thing she said in a staff meeting, the groceries, climate change, the hallway light bulb that needed replacing. She would lie there hour after hour, growing more frustrated with herself. Why can't I just sleep like normal people? She'd whisper into the dark. And one night she said something that broke my heart. I think my mind forgot how to feel safe. She was right. Her nervous system had been trained slowly, silently to expect danger, pressure, performance, even in the dark. She didn't need a sleep app. She didn't need more lavender tea. She needed permission to stop holding the world together, even for just one night. Together, we worked on one simple shift, recognizing that letting go is not the same as giving up. We used a practice I now call mind unclenching. It doesn't require clearing your mind. It just asks you to stop forcing it to do what it doesn't need to do. Here's how it works. When your thoughts start racing at night, instead of fighting them or telling yourself to shut up and sleep, you pause. You notice the thought, I forgot to respond to that email. Instead of spiraling, you say, noted, I'll return to that tomorrow. It doesn't need me now. Another thought appears, what if I don't get everything done tomorrow? You respond, I've done my part for today. The rest can unfold as it needs to. Each thought is like a bird landing on a branch. You don't have to chase it away. You just let it sit and then watch it fly off. You create space not by silencing the mind, but by softening the grip you've kept on everything. And slowly, just like Erica did, you begin to remember sleep is not something you earn through exhaustion. It is something you return to when you stop resisting the present moment. Think about this. When was the last time you fell asleep before you were completely worn out? When was the last time you entered sleep, not because you crashed, but because you trusted the day was done? Modern life has pushed us into survival mode, and in survival, the mind never turns off. It thinks it's helping. It thinks it's saving you. But you're not under attack. You're in bed. And it's okay to stop. Stoic philosophy doesn't tell us to shut off our thoughts. It teaches us to notice what we control and gently release what we don't. Right now, at this hour, you do not control other people's thoughts. Tomorrow's outcome, the state of the world, the past, the future. But you do control your breath, your posture, your willingness to let this moment be enough. So ask yourself, can I let tonight be good enough, even if the day wasn't perfect? Can I allow myself to rest even if everything isn't resolved? Can I trust even a little that I don't need to carry it all into sleep? And if the mind keeps talking, that's okay. You're not failing. You're remembering. Remembering how to lie down without planning, how to be awake without solving, how to let the body lead. So breathe in and feel the safety of this moment. Breathe out and release the urge to finish anything. You're not here to perform. You're not here to control. You're here to rest, because even the strongest minds need to unclench. Even the most caring people need to stop caring for a few hours so they can care again tomorrow. So soften your jaw. Let your hands be still. Let your thoughts keep coming, but let them pass like clouds in a quiet sky. And when you're ready, remind yourself. Sleep is not the enemy of responsibility. It is its foundation. Section 9, the world keeps turning without you. You lie in bed and the mind is still active, still watching, still calculating. There's a quiet urgency in your chest, the sense that you must stay alert just a little longer, just until it all feels safe, just until everything makes sense. But tonight, try this. Look up at the ceiling or close your eyes and remind yourself of something simple, something both humbling and freeing. The world will keep turning even if you let go. The sun does not wait for you to be ready. The moon does not pause its orbit while you finish one more task. The ocean does not consult your calendar before it rises or recedes. Life is moving, breathing, shifting, evolving, and it has never needed your control to do so. You see, most of your day has likely been spent managing, coordinating, planning. The invisible labor of keeping things in order, holding it together, responding to everything, anticipating anything. And somewhere along the way, you might have started to believe a dangerous little lie. If I stop even for a moment, everything will fall apart. That belief is understandable. It's even noble in its intention. You care. You want to be responsible. You want to do your part. But here's the quieter truth. You are not holding the stars in place. You are not keeping the tide from swallowing the shore. You are not the one pushing time forward. And that's not an insult to your importance. That's an invitation to finally rest. Let me tell you about someone I worked with, a man named Owen. Owen was in his early 30s, a startup founder with a team depending on him, a product still in development, and investors checking in at all hours. He lived by his phone, slept with it face up beside him, and measured his worth by how often he could say, "I'm staying on top of it." But at night, that phrase turned against him. Staying on top of it became insomnia. His mind raced with scenarios, timelines, code errors, user complaints that hadn't even happened yet. He didn't feel like he was building a company. He felt like he was holding up a crumbling ceiling with his bare hands. During one of our sessions, after several weeks of sleep deprivation and chronic anxiety, he said quietly, "I don't think I trust the world to keep moving unless I'm pushing it." That sentence landed heavy in the room, because underneath it was a lifetime of being rewarded for effort, for vigilance, for being the one who never let anything drop. So we began to gently explore a different truth, that maybe the world doesn't need to be pushed. Maybe it already knows how to move. We began small. He turned off notifications after 9 p.m. He practiced watching the sky, just clouds, no phone. He started reminding himself as he lay in bed, things can happen without me watching. It wasn't easy. At first, his mind panicked in the silence. It sent danger signals. You're falling behind, you'll miss something, you're being lazy. But night after night, Owen practiced letting go, not because everything was perfect, but because everything was still moving, even when he wasn't. And slowly, his body began to believe it. His sleep returned, not because the chaos disappeared, but because he stopped mistaking vigilance for control. And so I offer the same invitation to you tonight. Can you allow yourself to be still while the world moves on? Can you trust that the current doesn't need you to steer? That the sun will rise tomorrow, even if your to-do list is unfinished? That people will still breathe, think, evolve? Even if you step back for a few hours, you do not need to stay up to keep things together. There is no hidden emergency that requires your insomnia. The world has always turned without you, not in spite of you, but on behalf of you. So breathe that in. Not as proof of your smallness, but as a reminder of your belonging. You are not the center of the wheel. You are part of the circle, and part of being in the circle is learning to let go when it's time to let go. Nature understands this. A bear does not check its inbox before hibernation. A flower does not apologize for closing at dusk. A tree does not panic when it loses its leaves. Why must your mind always be in motion to prove your worth? What if tonight you could rest not because everything is finished, but because you are allowed to pause? What if tonight you could believe that things will continue without your interference? That the people you love will still breathe? That the future will still arrive? That the sun will still rise? You are not abandoning the world by resting. You are trusting it. Trusting that it has wisdom. Trusting that your role is not to control it, but to move with it in rhythm like breath. So here's your permission to sleep, to soften, to let your part in the play rest, even if just for one night. The script will go on without you, and when you return tomorrow, you will be clearer, kinder, truer to yourself. All because you let the world spin without needing your hands on the wheel. So close your eyes. Let go. Let the rivers flow. Let the planets move. Let your breath rise and fall like the earth's own rhythm. And remember, the world keeps turning, and it doesn't need you to stay awake to earn your place in it. Section 10, the lesson of falling leaves and flying birds. Watch a leaf fall. It doesn't resist the air. It doesn't argue with the wind. It doesn't try to control its descent. It simply lets go. There's no panic in the fall, no self-doubt, no shame in its surrender. The tree doesn't mourn it. The leaf doesn't apologize. Both understand the rhythm. They are part of a larger unfolding that doesn't ask for control, only trust. And you too are part of that rhythm. But unlike the leaf, you've learned to resist, to grip, to stay in motion even when your body pleads for rest. You may lie in bed still and warm under the covers, but inside your mind continues to hold on to the day, to the future, to the mistakes, to the hopes, to the things you should have said or done or become by now. Sleep, you've been told, is something you must earn. Something you must force. Something that happens after the list is complete, the inbox is empty, the heart is calm. But that's not true. Sleep like the leaf's fall is a form of letting go, and you cannot force surrender. You can only allow it. There's a bird, perhaps you've seen one, gliding through the sky wing, stretched but still. Not flapping, not struggling, just floating on a current it cannot see but deeply trusts. The bird does not ask whether the wind will hold it. It does not hesitate mid-flight to calculate the exact physics of the air. Trust its nature, and so it flies. And you are a creature of rhythm too, of sleep and waking, of holding and releasing, of thinking and resting. You are not meant to grip forever. Let me tell you about someone I once guided. His name was Caleb. Caleb was a trauma nurse, brave, competent, dedicated to his patients. He saw more in 1 week than many see in a lifetime, suffering, uncertainty, urgency. His body moved with precision, but his heart often carried the invisible weight home. At night, he couldn't sleep, not because of nightmares, but because he didn't know how to stop holding everything. He said once, "I can't rest. It feels like if I let go, someone might need me and I won't be there." That sentence broke something open in both of us. You see, Caleb had spent so long being strong for others, he forgot what it felt like to surrender even to the simplicity of sleep. His identity was tied to alertness. and alertness was always wired to fear. Together, we explored something ancient, the idea that rest is not absence, it is restoration. He began practicing a small ritual each night. He would sit quietly and say out loud, "I've done my part today. Now I fall like a leaf." At first, he said it with hesitation, then with softness, then eventually with relief. He wasn't giving up. He wasn't leaving anyone behind. He was joining the cycle of nature, the same cycle that allows everything to rise, peak, and fall in its own time. And slowly his sleep returned. Not all at once, not like flipping a switch, but like seasons changing, subtle, gradual, real. That's what surrender looks like. Not a dramatic declaration, just a shift from tension to trust. So let me ask you, can you let yourself fall gently into this moment? Can you imagine sleep not as something to conquer, but as something that arrives when you stop trying to prove your worth? Can you remember that even the most majestic leaf lets go without effort? That even the most powerful bird trusts the invisible wind? You don't need to finish the list tonight. You don't need to resolve the future before you close your eyes. You don't need to earn permission to rest. You were born into a body that knows how to sleep, that knows how to restore itself if you stop interrupting it with expectation. So breathe. Notice the weight of your body against the bed, the softness of the pillow, the gentle rhythm of your breath in and out like a wave touching the shore. Nothing in this moment needs to be different. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not the only one learning how to let go. You are just here like the tree in fall, like the bird in flight, like the stream finding its way without being told where to go. And when the thoughts come, because they will let them come, then let them pass like leaves, like birds, like clouds across the quiet sky. You are not your thoughts. You are not your to-do list. You are not the weight you've carried. You are the one beneath all that quietly waiting to fall into rest. So let yourself fall, without fear, without control, without needing to do more, because sleep, like nature, cannot be forced. It can only be trusted. And it will come. As surely as the trees will turn, as surely as the birds will fly, as surely as the wind moves through everything unseen yet always arriving. Let that be enough. Section 11, and in the morning you'll begin again. You don't need to solve everything tonight. You've done enough, not because everything is complete, but because you are allowed to stop. Just for now. Just until the morning light returns to touch the windowsill. When you wake, the world will still be here. The dishes may still be in the sink. The unanswered emails might still sit quietly in your inbox. The conversation you're avoiding may still need to happen. The bills, the calendar, the stretch of things undone, they'll still be waiting. But here's what might change you. Not in some dramatic, life-altering way, but in the smallest, subtlest shift that only you might notice. You might wake up feeling lighter. Not because everything outside of you is different, but because something inside of you has softened. You let go even if only for a few hours. You stopped carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. You stopped fighting your own thoughts. You stopped gripping the steering wheel of a world that never really needed your hands. And in that surrender, something inside you returned to center. This is the hidden wisdom of sleep, not as escape, but as quiet restoration. You don't go to sleep to abandon your life. You go to sleep so you can return to it with more of yourself intact. Let me tell you about someone I once knew, a teacher named Mel. Mel was beloved by her students. She poured her whole self into her classroom, her time, her energy, her care. But at night, her mind wouldn't turn off. She worried about her students, their families, the ones who didn't eat breakfast, the ones who fell asleep in class. She felt like if she didn't carry them all, no one would. But it broke her. Slowly, she began to get sick more often. Her energy crashed. And worst of all, the joy, the thing that made her such a brilliant teacher, began to dim. In one of our sessions, she told me, "I feel guilty sleeping when so many things are still broken." We sat in silence for a long moment. Then I asked her something I've asked many others since. What if your rest is part of what allows you to keep giving? She didn't answer right away, but that night she tried something new. Before going to sleep, she whispered to herself, "I'm allowed to rest. The world will wait, and I will return softer." It didn't fix everything. The system was still broken, the needs were still real, but she began to wake up with more clarity, more patience, and a deeper ability to hold space, not because she fought harder, but because she had rested fully. That's what's possible for you too. Not a perfect morning, not a perfect life, but a new beginning from a lighter place. So as you lie here now, consider this. You don't need to be someone else when you wake up. You don't need to hustle into a new personality, a new role, a new plan. You just need to arrive gently with the version of you that has been softened by surrender. You may still have questions. You may still have doubt. You may still be healing from something unseen. But you'll have one thing you didn't have yesterday: the experience of letting go without falling apart. And that changes everything. Because once you realize you can stop, and the world keeps moving, and you keep breathing, you no longer fear rest, you begin to trust it. So tomorrow when you wake up, maybe your first thought won't be a list. Maybe it will be a breath. Maybe you won't sprint toward the day. Maybe you'll sit for a moment, letting the morning light hit your skin like a small, silent reminder. You don't have to hold everything, just the next thing. And even if the world is still complicated, still messy, still in motion, you'll be different. Just a little, just enough. Because you slept not as a reward for completion, but as a commitment to your own well-being. That is what Stoicism teaches us. That control is not the goal, clarity is. And clarity often begins where control ends. So tonight, in these final minutes before you drift off, remind yourself of this. You have done your part for today. You have earned nothing, and yet you are still worthy of rest. You don't need everything to change before you allow yourself to lie down fully. You just need to believe that you can change softly, silently in sleep. Not by force, but by return. Return to breath, return to body, return to this quiet truth. You are enough even when nothing is finished, so let your shoulders drop. Let the grip in your jaw release. Let your breath deepen, not because you made it so, but because your body finally feels safe enough to let it. And know that in the morning you will begin again. Not from urgency, but from peace. Section 12, you are allowed to rest, let go now. Let this be the moment where you stop trying, not because you're giving up, but because you've already given enough. Let your breath find its rhythm without you having to guide it. You are allowed to rest. Not because you finished everything, not because you earned it, not because everything is perfect, but because rest is natural, because you are human, because no one can carry everything forever. The stars outside do not apologize for shining. The moon does not rush its rise. The ocean does not beg for permission before it turns. And you are not separate from these things. You are a rhythm, a pulse, a soft creature of breath and warmth and cycles. And tonight, right now, you are invited back into that rhythm. Your body already knows how. It has always known. The tension in your chest, let it drop like a coat slipping from your shoulders. The heaviness in your legs, let it melt into the mattress beneath you. The racing thoughts, let them pass like wind moving through tall grass, present but not permanent. This is not the time to plan. This is not the time to prove. This is the time to fall gently into quiet. Let me tell you something that may be easy to forget. You are not alone in this moment. All across the world, people are lying down. Some in silence, some in cities full of hum and motion, some with loved ones beside them, some in solitude. But all of them, like you, are searching for stillness. There is a quiet brotherhood, a sisterhood, a shared breath between us in the dark. We are all just trying to find peace inside a world that rarely pauses. And yet, here you are, pausing, giving yourself this gift not of sleep, but of surrender. Whether or not sleep comes quickly tonight, you have already begun. Because peace doesn't always start with silence. Sometimes peace starts with permission. Permission to be tired, permission to stop fixing, permission to close your eyes, even when the mind keeps moving. So if thoughts rise up again, don't resist them. Welcome them like soft clouds. Let them float by. You don't need to chase clarity. You don't need to suppress noise. You only need to return to the breath, to the bed, to the body. And when you feel the old urge come to think harder, to remember something, to fix what's still unresolved, say quietly to yourself, "Not now. I'm safe to rest." Because you are. You are safe. Right now, in this breath, in this body, in this room, you are safe. Let the world keep turning without you. Let tomorrow arrive on its own. Let morning be a mystery you don't have to solve tonight. You've done enough. More than enough. And the version of you that will wake in the morning, they don't need you to stay up all night protecting them. They just need you to let go. So go. Go into the gentle nothing. Go into the warmth of this moment. Go into the softness that asks nothing of you. Not strength, not answers, not even stillness. Just presence. Just being. Let sleep come to you like an animal that only appears when you stop trying to trap it. Let it crawl beside you like a gentle companion. Let it arrive slowly, or quickly, or not yet. Let it come on its own time, the way all good things do. Because tonight isn't about conquering sleep. It's about remembering you don't need to conquer anything to be okay. And now, this is the part where I leave you, not with a command to sleep or a checklist to finish, but with space. The kind of space you rarely get in your day, quiet, undemanding, sacred. You've walked through a long day. You've carried more than you needed to. You've thought more than your mind was made for. And still, you made it here. So let this final breath, this final beat of your heart tonight be a reminder. You don't have to hold it all. You never did. The world is still spinning. The stars are still glowing. The wind is still brushing gently against rooftops somewhere far away. And all of it, every part of it, is happening without your control. And that's okay. You are still part of it, but for now you're allowed to step back. You're allowed to melt into the dark. You're allowed to fall. And when morning comes, you'll rise again. Not with perfection, but with presence. Not because everything has changed, but because you have just a little, just enough. So good night, gentle one. Let the world carry itself for a while. Let the breath carry you. Let sleep, whenever it chooses, come home to you without force, without fear. And until then, just rest.